Good, thanks, Zoe. Zoe was talking about catchment-based solutions. I'm going to talk about a particular catchment. It's one that we're actually sat in now, which is the Skjern. And I'll talk a little bit more about those festivals, because I have actually been at the Innovation Festival, and we've spent quite a lot of time talking about the Skjern in previous ones, and we're going to spend even more time on this one, talking about the Skjern as well. So Discover Brightwater is something that you may be familiar with or may not, but we're a landscape partnership that's funded by the National Lottery. So far, the National Lottery have spent £8 billion of your scratch card money on the heritage, both built heritage and natural heritage. So I'm contractually obliged to say thank you, and please keep on playing the lottery or getting the scratch cards, because we're one of those good causes that gets the money. We're a partnership, and I've put that slide up really just to show you the level of the number of partners that we have. One of the things I said at the beginning about Discover Brightwater is that I don't want to be the star of the show, or we don't want Brightwater to be, but we do want to get the Oscar nomination for the Best Supporting Act, because Brightwater is about a particular chapter in the history of the Skjern. Now, the Skjern's a really interesting river. A sensible river would start where it does, which is a muddy pond, or muddy pool at Trimdon, and it would go straight out the North Sea via Hartlepool. The Skjern is a much more northern sociable character, and it meanders for 25 miles throughout the Tees lowlands, through Newton Aycliffe, through Darlington, eventually meeting up with the Tees at Croft. And it's a very slow river, very slow moving, it's very shallow. Throughout history, we've done as much as we can to kind of really give it a hard time. We've channelized it, we've mined coal under it, we've built railways around it, we've done as much as we've got 10 sort of sewage works and small communities feeding into it. So it's a beleaguered little river. In fact, in the 1970s, it was Europe's 7th most polluted watercourse. It's not there anymore. It's much better than that, but it's still not good. And there's, I think, mostly poor or moderate quality water in it. So one of the things I'm keen to do when we finish with Brightwater and we finish with the sprint, and the next group of people are taking on the baton, is I want to be able to take my grandchildren to paddle in the Skjern safely. So that's my kind of challenge. We've had originally about 3.3 million, mostly from the lottery, but also from environment agencies and others to sort of support the work that we're doing. I'll tell you about that in a moment. We're now up to about 5 million plus. The point I want to make here is, we talk blithely about millions and billions. My mind was blown, in fact, I nearly crashed the car the other week, because I was listening to Radio 4 and somebody said, if you were to count to 1 million with 1 second at a time, how long would it take you to count to 1 million? So, great question. Have a think. How long would you say that would last? Apparently it's 12 days. You can count to 1 million 1 second at a time in 12 days. So you then say, right, okay, how long would it take you to count at that speed to 1 billion? And the answer is 32 years. That's the difference between the million and the billion. And 1 trillion would take you 32,000 years to count. So when we start talking about the numbers that we're talking about in investment, I noticed that the Teesside Carbon Zero is looking to bring in £10 billion worth of investment. That would take you 320 years to count out £1 at a time. And we're talking about millions here, and we're one of the biggest projects that Durham Wildlife Trust have done. As a sector, we need to raise our game in the kind of money that we're generating, because the money's out there. There's trillions of pounds ready for investment in climate change and improved biodiversity if we've got the right projects and programs to get the investors interested. So this is our catchment. As I say, we developed a map early on. It's not a map, it's a schematic. We tried to make it look like a tourist area because there's so much of interest in our area that nobody kind of knew about. And our project deals with 5 themes, really. So part of it's river improvement, wetland creation, heritage, we've done archaeology, there's community, and some legacy work. I'm going to talk a little bit, I'll let Ben Lamb, Director of Tees Rivers Trust, talk about some of the river improvements that we've done.
So as part of Brightwater, the Tees Rivers Trust is working at a couple of different sites. We've got a site in Darlington, right in the middle of the town, that's an upstream between Skirningham and Newton Aycliffe. We're working throughout the river, which, as I said earlier, is deeply incised. It's what we call a trapezoidal channel, so just a straight, uniform channel that over many years has been dredged and deepened, and also has a lot of runoff from various places, either from households, through misconnections, through agriculture, through wastewater treatment, which is encouraging a lot of weed growth. And what we're doing is narrowing the channel and getting water to speed up through it and try and keep the channel a little cleaner and faster flowing and more oxygenated, which will allow fish to move on through it, invertebrates to establish in there, and to really make a better connected ecosystem. And it's most basic. What we are doing is in some locations using an excavator to go in and take out the weed growth through the middle of the channel, or to make a sinuous channel through the existing one. And then we're using bundles that we've made out of brash and stakes that we've made out of alder to formalise that channel. We're also using flow deflectors, and these larger pieces of timber, probably about that sort of diameter, that we've cleaved in half, and then we use 18 mil rebar pins, about 1.5 meters long, to slam them into the riverbed. And what they do is to focus current through a narrow channel, and that in turn then speeds the water up and cleans up the gravels that are there underneath the sediment.
It was quite amazing looking at the difference between the bit of water before the flow kind of restriction things were put in and the gravel afterwards, within 24 hours that the river was cleaning up. So we're doing that at the moment. There's lots of other projects going on. As I said, we've got history, heritage projects. There's a thing called a village atlas where we're going to different communities, getting everybody's ideas together. We're also doing wetland creation. So this summer we should see 2 new wetlands being created, one up at Bishop's Fen, just above Hardwick Park beneath Bishop Midland, and another just to the in between the A1M and the East Coast Main Line at Newton Aycliffe, a place called Ricknell Cars. We do all sorts of other things, though. You might have seen us at various events engaging. You might have met Skirney and Ondine with some of the kids. You might have learned how to keep bees at the Locomotion Museum. This is all part of a landscape partnership with funding, including doing a fantastic music thing called Song of the Skern, which you can see online. We trained a number of young people who were not in employment, education or training. There was 8 of them, and I think they've now all got either in further education or a job. So little things like projects like ours start making a difference in the lives of people who are involved. If you've been to Hardwick Park, you'll have seen our walks. We've done 10 walks. So far, about 40,000 leaflets have been picked up with people taking those walks to go. We've had tea with the Saxons. We've helped the Vikings build a next longboat. We've even had fun in the park here in South Park. What are we doing next? Well, we've done other things I'll do. I'll just flick through. We've done magazines. Have a look on the top floor if you haven't seen us. There's leaflets and things you can pick up. 2 legacy projects. One is called an eco museum, and that's how do you curate a whole area. And we're working on a software solution that might also be embedded in the landscape. And the other is the Great North Fen. The idea is we think there's between 500 and 600 hectares of land in the Skerne flood zone that could be wetlands. Jim and the Wildlife Trust are currently acquiring those bits of land and we're making it work. So in the next few years, the next part of our story will be the Great North Fen. But the immediate part, and I'm sorry I've gone 10 seconds over, Rachel, is at that Northumbrian Festival. Do join us because we're going to spend 3 days in a structured workshop working out exactly what we're going to do in the Skerne over the next period of time, might be the next 10 or 20 years, to bring that water up to the place where my grandchildren can go paddling. Thank you.